Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. My name is Stacy Amparano. I am with FarmSmart. So I know many of you have joined us in previous weeks, but this Ag Careers Q&A sessions are a collaboration between El Centro FFA and FarmSmart. And what we've been doing is having a variety of ag professionals from Imperial County join us each week to talk about their career, their path to their ag career, and just giving us some tips on how we can uh, be better prepared for entering the agricultural field. So today we have Chris Bostic joining us. He is with RDO Equipment. He is a regional sales manager. Hopefully I got that correct. So we appreciate you joining us today, Chris.
And all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me onto this event. I'm excited to talk about what I do and where I work. So my name is Chris Bostic. I work for RDO Equipment Company. We are the world's largest John Deere dealer. So we are not just in the U.S., but across the world. We have 92 locations just in the United States, plus all of our stores abroad. I was born and raised here in the Imperial Valley, went to McCabe School and then to Central/Southwest High School. Graduated from Southwest, attended Cal Poly. Cal Poly was great. I loved it. I wish I could have stayed there forever. Really neat place. Excellent area. I'm 40 years old. I've been in my current position for a little over 6 years now. Prior to this, I worked for a construction company called Ryerson here, and I worked there for about 13 years when I got back from school. So yeah, I am the regional sales manager. I cover California and Arizona. So I have a pretty large territory. Recently, within the past 6 months or so, I took over our vineyard business. And so we have a pretty large equipment offering for the vineyard business. It's something new for me that I voluntold took on. Previous, I was the sales manager for Southern California. So I covered our San Diego, Los Angeles, and Imperial Valley and Coachella Valley stores. Basically, day in my life. So I started as a salesman with RDO, and so I had my local customers here and enjoyed what I did. I really like customer facing. I'm not a computer person. I am not a sit behind a desk all day kind of guy. I've been outdoors all my life. My dad's a farmer here locally, works for Black Dog Farms, and I grew up basically doing that. He owned his own business previous to going to Black Dog, and so I worked on the farm, worked on the ranch, and spent summers and weekends and holidays usually out on the ranch. Most of it was by choice until I got older, and then it was pretty much by you're going to go help. But got my first job at about 15 and worked for some great people locally here in the Imperial Valley till I went to Cal Poly and really enjoyed my time. Learned a lot. First thing I can tell you guys is work experience. You know, obviously schooling is very important. Getting an education, understanding what you want to do, and getting an education in the field that you want to work in is very important. That's something that I learned about my junior year in high school, was that if I wanted to continue a path in some type of agribusiness, that I needed to continue to school towards that. And so I was at Cal Poly. I was able to take many classes that were beneficial to what I do now. All the math classes and stuff were worth it, believe it or not. Even the English classes, because I send a lot of emails now and do a lot of Zoom calls like you guys do. So glad I took those English classes so I could spell correctly, because spell check doesn't check everything we do. So anyways, I cover, like I said, California, Arizona. My main focus is pretty much anything north of Los Angeles, all the way up through the Salinas Valley, up to the Oregon border. And then Arizona, I cover everything east of pretty much Blythe, I guess, so right across the border, all the way out through Phoenix, into Coolidge, and pretty much anything out east in Arizona up to New Mexico. I have 6 guys that work with me, and they all have their territories. And so all of them are not in the Imperial Valley. So I travel basically 5 days a week. I'm on the road, and it's been very difficult with COVID. Typically, I jump on an airplane and fly somewhere and then rent a car and drive around for a few days and come home. But with COVID, I have been driving everywhere recently. So it's a lot of miles, a lot of time to think. But we pretty much have a great structure with our business. And so we have what we call a CRM. So it's our local internet, I guess you could say, that we operate from. And it makes it very simple to be able to do our job. That's one thing that RDO's done really well, is make it very easy for the salesman to be able to create a quote or look for equipment or locate things with other dealers. It's a crucial part of our job to be able to have the equipment when the customer needs it. So by being able to locate quickly, using different sources on the internet or our local CRM, we're able to locate that instantly and send out quotes and everything else. Again, like I told you guys, I'm a people person. I like meeting in person. So I very rarely will email a quote to somebody. I want to go sit down, discuss what we're doing, what the equipment is, the options, the features, how it can benefit their business. A lot has changed in our equipment business to where previous guys would tell us what they wanted and we would deliver it. Now we've gotten very big into the technology side of the business. And so we're able to pull daily reports for customers and tell them their fuel consumption, their idle time, their drawbar power that they're actually using on the tractor. So some guys might buy too big of a tractor and aren't using the horsepower. So they're paying a lot of money for something that we're not really using. So fortunately, RDO has these huge teams that back us up with a lot of this stuff. And so that's some of their focus, is to run these reports, generate things that can help us go sell more equipment. Because like I said, we're not trying to just put a piece of equipment in place. We're trying to make sure we're taking care of the customer and sending them the right piece that they need and make it as efficient as we can for them. So there's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of things that we have to go through and fine tune out of the reports, because the computer just spits out numbers on black and white. And so we go through the numbers, decipher what's important and what's not, what the customer wants to see that we believe, what they don't want to see, because we can throw these reports in front of them. There's 50, 60 pages. And so then it just becomes homework, basically, for lack of a better term, for the customer, which is obviously not what we want to do. We want to provide them with as much information as we can without them having to search for it, and highlight points that we feel are important to them. I enjoy my job. I really like what I do. It's difficult being on the road a lot. Up to this past year or so, I was pretty much just covering Southern California. So it was pretty easy to run around and do my job and come home every night. I do have two children. I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. So a senior and a sophomore in high school, in Imperial, sorry. But yeah, it makes it difficult. It was a tough decision that my family and I discussed on whether this was something that we wanted to pursue. And, with the opportunities that RDO offers, because of their locales that they have, with 90 something stores US wide, I can relocate to pretty much wherever I want if there's a position open that I would apply for and move to. They pay for relocation costs, things like that. They're a very good company to work for. And so I definitely see my career, being fulfilled here at RDO. It's a company that I could work for till I'm ready to retire. I grew up farming, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I'd love to farm every day, but it's just not in the cards for me exactly. For what I do, it's difficult to just say I want to be a farmer. It's something that you have to really, really understand and work for. I didn't take the plant science classes. I didn't take any of those that would have benefited me to be a farmer. So I picked the next best thing, which was selling equipment Monday through Friday. So we work 24 hours a day. Our customers call every night. Equipment's down, what have you. We actually are 24 hours a day. It's not just a glorious Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 type of deal. We actually spend a lot of hours communicating with our customers and doing things. And so, but it's very fruitful as well. You get a lot of self-worth out of it, a lot of understanding of what's going on in the business in the areas. Obviously, we live in a large farming community, and for me, it's been great to broaden my horizons to see what else is available out there, with taking on the vineyard business for the last 8-9 months. It's a business I really knew nothing about, other than wine got put in a bottle and it gets drank, and that's it. The processes, the equipment involved, the grading of the products, just the growing side of it. It's amazing the difference of, the agriculture that's outside of our valley. And so I've been very fortunate to be able to check in on a lot of that stuff and be involved with progression in our business. RDO offers me the ability to travel, obviously, like I told you guys, and I travel within the U.S. quite a bit. I go to a lot of trainings. I go to a lot of seminars and things like that. I spend typically a week or two in Orlando every year. I spend a week in Milwaukee every year. I go to Chicago for a week. I actually get to go abroad as well. So Mexico being our neighbor, Baja California is really nice and I love it. But I actually get to go down to Central Mexico and see operations down there. I was in Italy in February for a week. I went to Hawaii for a week in November of last year. I'm going to France in February for a week. And so it's neat. And I'm not a traveling person. I am the last person you're going to see on an airplane volunteering. But it's very unique. It's very fun. My progress through RDO has been great. We have some great teams, some great leadership that makes it really convenient for us to be able to want to progress with the company. We have employees that have been here for 30 and 35 years at RDO and plan on retiring there. But we all are a big family. It's really neat to be able to hear people's stories and what they do and how they've moved around the company and the opportunities that RDO affords their employees. They love to promote within. And so myself being an example, I was covering a small regional territory and now I jumped up to a very large regional territory, and step next to that would be an even larger regional territory. So, it's very neat. Things that obviously work ethic is huge. Again, this isn't a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. Those are very rare to find anymore where you can do that and just do that. But the work ethic behind what we do and the teams that we've built to rely on each other and make each other better is a big reason why I love RDO and why I plan on retiring here when I get to that point. For students that are looking to, take a career in the agribusiness, again, go back to start figuring out what you would like to do. There's not anything that says you have to stick to one business or one small portion of the business. Work experience, like I said, is a huge thing. And I was fortunate enough to gain a lot of that experience working for some pretty prominent people in the Imperial Valley. And then when I moved to Cal Poly, up to San Luis Obispo, I actually started working for a gentleman up there that was a very large rancher. And so it was neat. It was very neat. But I would definitely say that I've gotten where I've got because of my work experience and because of the work ethic that was instilled in me with my parents. But definitely start thinking about what it is you'd like to do and kind of narrow it to a focus. You can always change. Like I said, I just turned 40. I don't plan on changing my career anytime soon. But definitely something different within, our business would be something that I would consider looking at. Our stores up in the Northwest, up in Oregon and Washington and Idaho, Montana actually intrigued me quite a bit. So that's something that I might strive to eventually get up to that area and retire up there. And so we do a different business up that way as well. It's farming, but a lot of potato farming, as you can imagine, and a lot of hay farming. And so something that I haven't really gotten involved in is the potato side of our business. RDO, so Ron Offit is the owner. Those are his initials on the company. He actually was a farmer that started trying to rent tractors back in the 60s, and he wasn't able to rent tractors, so he bought a dealership. And it just happened to be a John Deere dealership. Quick tidbit on that. So he bought the dealership, borrowed money to buy it, couldn't afford the payroll the first week. Didn't know what he was doing running an equipment business because he grew up farming. So the owner of the business that he'd purchased took him around to customers, and they pre-sold parts for the next season and service for the customers, which they all paid up front. He was able to make payroll, and on he went. So from one store in the 60s to 90 plus in the U.S. Today, plus all the stores we have abroad. His story is very unique, obviously, but it just shows that if you have a mindset and you want to work towards it, it's something you can achieve. He's still involved every day to day. He's the CEO of our company. Comes in probably once or twice a year and checks in on us and talks to us like a normal person. Not your typical CEO stigma, but great down to earth person. I enjoy spending time with him and learning things from him that I haven't been able to learn myself. The other thing I can tell you guys is keep learning. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. Not one of us on this call knows everything. There's so many avenues and directions that you can look into to expand your education on what you have going on or what you're doing. In my business, I told you I attend a lot of seminars and a lot of trainings and stuff. And typically it's like, oh God, I got to go to another training. I got to go to another seminar. I got to get on a plane to travel to go do this. Once I get there and I actually listen to what's going on and go through our classes, it's very beneficial. There's a lot of people that their jobs are to be in tune with the changing times and what's going on with our business and how it's changing, what we can do to further our sales or to be better at, our customer facing time. So it's very beneficial for us. We dread it every time we're going. All of us talk about not wanting to go, but once we leave, it turns out to be a very beneficial deal. My trip to Hawaii was that. It was actually a seminar that I went to, and it was probably the best training I've been to in quite some time. We had a sales professional that all he does is teach sales. And it was very, very neat to understand their outlook of what we're doing, because we typically get stereotyped as, we're just dumb farmers. We don't know what we're doing. We grow crops and that's all we do. And so with our business, it's very unique compared to the rest of the world to see how we work. We don't have a stock market that we can watch and trade every day and see what's going on. The markets fluctuate just like the stock market does. And so these guys are bankrolling months and years ahead to try to, make a living at what they're doing. With us, some of our equipment, larger pieces, can be $600,000, $650,000 for a tractor. Some of them cotton pickers, just shy of $800,000. So it's a large investment that these people are making to make sure that they can expand and keep their business afloat. And our job is to come in and make sure that we're being efficient for them to keep that going. Like I said, the advances in technology, there are huge opportunities in technology and agribusiness right now. Huge, huge opportunities. I had wished I'd taken some more technical classes related to that. My Excel experience is about as far as I go technically right now in any of the latest and advanced stuff. But some of the newer gentlemen that we've hired that have come on fresh out of trade school or out of a university that took technical classes to work around this equipment do an excellent job. And they speak basically Greek to me. I do not understand anything they're talking about most of the time, but they're very efficient. They do a great job and they're able to translate that back out to ourselves and the farmers. So tech is going to be a huge, huge industry with agriculture going forward. And, by gaining that experience, you could obviously jump to pretty much any portion of agribusiness you wanted to, but that would be definitely a field that I would be training for right now if I was still in school and working that way. It's something that I've got my son working towards right now, is a career in some type of technical and agribusiness. So we're looking at trade schools for him to go to a couple trade schools. He is not a four-year university person, and he is definitely barely a four-year high school person. So we're having a fun time, but yeah, we're definitely pushing him to go to a trade school to get some experience, with the trade side, with technical. He loves computers. He loves everything about it. And so, with the opportunities that are available right now, we're pushing him towards that technical side of the agribusiness. And it could be with anybody from a tractor dealership to a seed company to, we have electronic machines now that go out and thin lettuce and weed. Typically you use crews, that go out 15, 20, 50 people that go out with hose and remove weeds or thin lettuce through the fields. We actually have machines that we're running today that go and do this manually without having to have crews out in the field. Crews will never be replaced. There's still going to have to be personnel that walk through the field and fine tune. But the cost of owning one of these machines is substantial. But when you compare it to a food safety claim or workman's comp or something like that these people are having to pay out, it's minimal. We've done some return on investment costs on a couple of these machines, and some of these guys that are large enough can actually replace them, pay for them within a year to a year and 6 months. So it's a very, very good investment, but it also takes somebody that is technically involved to run them. I've had a difficult time trying to get used to everything that they do, because you have to go in and it's a computer, you program it, tell it what you want it to do, and then it goes. So very neat things in our business, very cool things coming in the near future. We have autonomous equipment that we're actually prototyping right now for deer. So can't tell you where it's at or where it's running, but I can tell you that I've personally watched it and been out seeing it run. So those will be released here, I believe, within the next 12 to 18 months. which is very soon for something like that. But we believe it's going to be a really neat process and very technical. Like I said, tech is going to be huge in agribusiness, as well as obviously we still need farmers, we still need growers, we still need crop specialists, things like that. But if you're considering a career in ag, the tech is definitely something to get involved in because everything we do now involves tech.
I'm going to help you facilitate the questions. Perfect. Also. We would like students to ask them in person if possible, but if not, we'll go ahead and start from the chat also. You can see Jacob is asking, coming out of high school, how do you feel? Do you feel like you had an advantage when I came to being to the position that you are now?
Yes. Coming out of high school, like I said, I started working young, on my dad's farm with him. So I had an idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go in a direction. Actually, I had an idea. Like I said, when I got back from school, I went to work for a construction company for quite some time just because it intrigued me at the time. And I think it's because I didn't want to go back to farming directly. So yeah, coming out of high school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I had a broad idea of where I wanted to go with my career and where I wanted to be. But no, I didn't have an exact idea of this is what I'm going to be doing. I wasn't the type of person that said, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a cop. That wasn't who I was. I knew I wanted to do something in the business that I'm in. I just didn't know what that was.
I know that, well, I really appreciate the fact that you stated that, not everyone's going to be a farmer. And this is part of the reason why we have this program is because there are so many occupations and careers, related to the agriculture industry that are very satisfying and are very, necessary in the group. I'm going to kind of skip around it a lot. Some of the questions you've kind of already touched on, but we'll go back to them. You've given us a lot of good advice today. What is the best career advice that you ever received?
That's a very good question. So I worked for a gentleman here when I was younger in the Imperial Valley, and he's a very difficult person to work with or work for. And I basically did grunt work. Basically whatever he asked me to do, I'd run around all over and tow trailers or go work on harvest equipment or take somebody over here or over there or whatever. So I was a grunt, I just fresh out of high school. And again, I knew I wanted to do something, just didn't know what. So one day we were sitting talking and I traveled a lot with him. We went up to Salinas and then through the Central Valley and then back this way. It was a harvesting business. And so we were sitting talking one day and I was his driver. Whenever he would fly in, I'd pick him up and we'd go drive around and go home. I'd drop him back off at the airport. And so we're driving one day and he just said, Chris, is this what you want to do with the rest of your life? Drive me around? And I said, God, no, that's not what I want to do. You drive me nuts. He said, all right, well, you're not getting any younger, so why don't you start thinking about what you would like to do? And so, that day probably set me off as far as, because it wasn't very long after that I decided I was moving to Cal Poly and going to school. As much as I did not like school, I decided that was probably the best place for me to go. There's, again, like Stephanie said, not everybody's a 4-year person. Not everybody's, going to go to a trade school, but, you can definitely work your way up through a business. It's just much easier if you have some kind of an education or work experience to work your way through somewhere that you want to be. I don't ever picture myself being a CEO of a company. It's just not what I want to do because you lose touch with the customers, in my opinion. I enjoy what I do with my customer facing time. I'm been told I'm very well spoken. I'm not shy in front of people. I sometimes need to put my filter on, but other than that, I love being in front of customers and in front of people, and I've never had a problem speaking in front of anybody. So this is probably, for me, the most of an advancement as I would like to go into, because I don't want to lose touch with my customers.
So a lot of people are asking favorite thing, least favorite thing, and I think you've pretty much answered those, but we can highlight those again. But before we get to that, I do want to ask one of the questions about the internships. Does RDO offer any internships?
We do, absolutely. So we offer from a technical. Correct. We offer for an internship. So we have sales interns. We have mechanic interns. And actually, if you're considering a career in mechanics on going to UTI or something like that, we actually are one of the businesses that place out of UTI. So you can come to work direct with us straight out of UTI. And so we'll actually do an internship with UTI for a few months, bring you in, let you see how we do things, what have you on your break. And then you go back to school. And if you want to come to work for RDO, they make you an offer when you get out of school. Our sales internships are similar. They're typically a college age person that, comes down and is doing a internship. We are one of the few people that pay our interns when they come to work for us. And so it's not a free internship. We actually pay for it. So you're a part-time employee, but you get paid, minimum wage at the least. And so you gain some experience out of it and understand what we do. Internships are huge with RDO, and that's anywhere they're located. So it doesn't have to just be the Imperial Valley or anything else. It's across the U.S. where we have stores.
And are there scholarships available through the RDO?
So RDO is involved with the foundation. They have their own foundation that they do scholarship programs through. They are mainly based at certain colleges. So Ron went to the University of North Dakota, which is based in Fargo, which is where our company's based out of. And so they are huge proponents to the University of North Dakota. And then I believe they do one in, trying to think, somewhere in Washington. I think it's Hermiston or something like that. I forgot the name of the college there, but yes, they do some scholarships. There's also, I'm going to plug a little bit here. So the California Midwinter Fair Heritage Foundation, which I am one of the founders of, we do scholarships as well. And you do not have to be your parents don't have to be members. You don't have anything like that. It is open to everybody. So please go check that out, because we do scholarships every year.
Awesome. So let's see, I was going to bring this up also, but someone is also asking about opportunities in FFA. What experience on FFA, since these are a lot of these are FFA students, that you can share as far as leadership and why those experiences are important, and maybe how they helped you along the way. And
Sure.
I was going to tie that also into communication skills, because I know that FFA offers a lot to develop communication skills, especially if you're going to be in customer service.
Right. Through, obviously elementary, I was in 4-H, and then got into high school and did FFA. I never had an animal in FFA, but I did do all the projects with Mr. Pritchard, who unfortunately you guys don't get to see, but he was a blast. I love Mr. Pritchard. We learned a lot. And, some of the skills that I definitely left out FFA with when I was doing the welding classes and things like that, it actually helped me into the job I went into right after school, because I was able to fix things on the side of the road and do projects like that typically somebody, that doesn't have the experience or hasn't learned anything like that, wouldn't be able to do, and would have to call somebody else to do. So I think FFA and 4-H are huge, great projects. I think that they're obviously FFA is more driven towards the FFA purpose, where 4-H is a little more broad, but I think they're both great programs. My kids are obviously involved as well. But I think there's a lot of good things you guys can learn out of that. I think there's a lot of characteristics in it that, once you start thinking about a career path, you can start picking your electives in FFA or in shop class or what have you that, might help you push forward towards that. It looks great on a resume, especially if you were a leader in FFA, if you were on any of the, committees or things like that. Resumes have become a very large thing. And all of it's electronic now, unfortunately for me and anybody older than me probably. But, it's very unique looking through resumes, and I do all the hiring on my team. So I go through, when I post a position, I typically have 150 to 200 applicants for one position. So the way I weed through is I filter, does a resume? If there's not, you're out. And then I start going through the resumes and I look for work experience. I look for education. I look for, what could benefit this person with me. And then one of the newest things we've done is we call it a Profile XT. So I don't want to call it a personality test, because that's not what it is, but it's something similar to that I can compare it to. And so it gives us your strengths and weaknesses through a series of questions. And I don't hire off of that, but I definitely look at it and see what somebody's strengths and weaknesses would be. And they're very simple questions, what color do you like? Stuff like that. And it'll ask it to you several different times in different forms. And so it's kind of tricky, but it definitely gives us the ability to see how somebody can process certain things. Yeah, it's definitely unique the way we hire now, and so without being in person to try to get an interview, obviously you want to have a very strong resume, and something like FFA or what have you, anything related to that would be great on there.
There's a couple of personal questions in there, like what's your favorite country song? What's your favorite trip you've ever taken? So I don't know if you want to get into those real quick.
Country song. Let's see. It's got to be Dust on the Bottle. That is probably one of my favorites. Reminds me of high school. I like the older, I call it older, the 90s country. How's that? That's probably classic country to some of you guys, but 90s country. I love the 90s era of country.
We are actually already at the end of our time, so that flew by. You gave us such great information and some wonderful advice for the students that were on the call. So we again thank you so much for joining us.